My husband bought his mistress a multi-million-dollar mansion and handed me divorce papers. I didn't make a scene. In just 1 minute, I reclaimed $1 billion in assets. The man who had been touring the estate with his side piece was left completely dumbfounded. 10 years of marriage had been reduced to a single piece of paper and the title of a has-been housewife. But it only took me 1 hour to leave him and his little princess utterly devastated. Outside the window, the Seattle rain was pouring down like the sky had broken open, smashing against the glass and my long-chilled heart. Today was our 10th wedding anniversary. How many decades does a woman have in her life? I, Samantha Carter, had left work early, got my hair done, applied flawless makeup, and put on the burgundy dress he once said perfectly highlighted my elegance. On the dining table sat a cold steak and a novelty candle meant to symbolize our 10 years together, sitting in absolute silence. The wax tears had dried, solidifying into an ugly red puddle, looking exactly like our dead romance. My phone screen lit up. It was a text from Lucas Carter. It was brief and bone-chilling. Working late. Don't wait up. 6 words. Working late, my ass. I already knew from a trusted friend in accounting that there was no overtime scheduled at the company today. I set down the glass of Cabernet that had turned intolerably bitter in my mouth and opened an inconspicuous tracking app on my phone. I had quietly installed it last year after finding a perfume scent on his shirt collar that definitely didn't belong to me. The little red dot representing him on the map wasn't at the brightly lit downtown office building, but in the ultra-expensive Mercer Island neighborhood. The rain slashed down frantically. My hands gripping the steering wheel were ice cold, but a burning fire raged in my chest. 3 years ago, we had looked at houses here. Lucas had put his arm around me and said it was too isolated, the amenities weren't mature, and it was a bad investment. Thinking back on it now, he didn't think it was a bad investment. He just thought it was a bad investment to live there with me. The security guard at the gated community was a new face. He hesitated for a moment but opened the gate anyway. I parked my car under a tree a short distance away and cut the engine. In the rain, that familiar black Mercedes G-Wagon was glaringly obvious. It was the gift I bought him for his 35th birthday. Through the rain-blurred car window, I saw my good husband, Lucas Carter, eagerly wrapping his arm around a young girl's waist, holding an umbrella for her. The girl had a slender figure, was draped in designer brands, and dangled a shiny set of keys in her hand, laughing wildly. "Lucas, is this mansion really going to be in my name?" The girl's voice was sweet and cloying, piercing through the sound of the rain and drilling straight into my ears. "Of course, princess." I had listened to Lucas's voice for 10 years, but at this moment it was as unfamiliar as a dull knife slicing through flesh. This is just the beginning. Once I divorce the woman at home, the entire company will be ours. I pushed the car door open and stepped into the rain. The freezing water instantly soaked my hair and clothes, but I couldn't feel the cold. I only felt a massive boulder blocking my chest, making it impossible to breathe. The man who had squeezed into a tiny studio apartment with me, splitting a cheap box of Kraft mac and cheese and insisting I take the last bite, was now using the hard-earned money we built together to build a nest for another woman. Lucas looked up and saw me in the rain. The smile on his face instantly froze, like he was wearing a clumsy mask. But to my surprise, there was no panic in his eyes. Instead, there was a sense of profound relief. He let go of the girl and walked toward me. The girl, Chloe Evans, immediately clung to his arm like a parasitic vine. She tilted her chin up high, her eyes full of undisguised provocation. "Samantha." Lucas stopped in front of me, his voice colder than the winter rain. "Since you've seen it, I won't bother hiding it anymore. Let's get a divorce. I have the papers ready. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow." Rain mixed with my tears streamed down my face. I dug my fingernails hard into my palms. The sharp pain kept me grounded. "Fine." I heard my own voice, so calm it even terrified me. "See you tomorrow." After saying that, I turned and walked away, not sparing them another glance. Behind me came Chloe's sickeningly sweet and confused voice. "Lucas, why is she so calm? Is she plotting something?" Right after came Lucas's dismissive sneer, stabbing into my eardrums. "What kind of damage is she gonna do? The company is in my hands. The money is in my accounts. She's just a housewife who spends all day in the kitchen, completely out of touch with the real world. Relax, babe. Just get ready for the good life. Housewife." I sneered in my heart. The fire in my chest burned even brighter. He had forgotten who stood by him when he started from nothing, staying up all night drafting software architecture in our rundown apartment. He forgot who hustled and dined clients night after night until I developed a stomach ulcer just to land our first major contract. He forgot who swallowed her pride and went back to her parents in Florida to beg for a bailout loan when the company's supply chain broke down. Now that the company was a tech giant, He only remembered me as a housewife, returning to the place that used to be called a home, which now felt as cold and empty as a luxurious tomb. I didn't cry. I didn't smash anything. I marched straight into the home office, pulled open the bottom drawer, and hauled out a heavy, frayed old ledger. This book recorded every meager income, every necessary expense, and every early client's name from the company's first 3 years. Every stroke was written by my own hand. Every page was soaked in the sweat and the most precious youth of us both. Now, they were my first weapons for striking back. I booted up the computer, my fingers trembling slightly from adrenaline and the chill. Fortunately, Lucas probably thought I was foolish and easily bullied, and hadn't yet thought to revoke my executive access in the corporate system. That was a privilege he forced upon me when the company first scaled up, telling me to log in occasionally so I would feel involved. I rapidly downloaded the financial statements and cash flow details from the past 2 years. The data was massive and complex, but my sharp instincts caught several large, unexplained outbound transfers with vague memos. I then picked up my phone and texted my college roommate, now a top-tier family law attorney in Seattle, Grace Harper. Grace, I need an emergency meeting. See you at your firm tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm getting a divorce. But I want Lucas to walk away with absolutely nothing and his reputation destroyed. The rain outside had stopped at some point, but my own personal storm was just beginning. I slowly twisted the somewhat tarnished wedding band on my ring finger. 10 years ago, the scene of Lucas standing outside my worn-down dorm building, holding a bouquet of wildflowers picked from the side of the road and proposing to me, was still as clear as yesterday. Back then, we had nothing but each other and hearts full of passion. I took off the ring and gently placed it on the battered ledger. The cold metal slid from my fingertips. Love was dead. The war had officially begun. Lucas, did you really think I was still the Samantha from 10 years ago, the one who loved you more than anything and was willing to step back for you? You're dead wrong. I stayed awake all night, locking myself in the office, operating like a precision machine. The pale light of the desk lamp illuminated the ledger spread across the desk, the printed financial reports, and my sticky notes covered in dense analysis. The coffee went cold, then I heated it up, chugging it just to stay alert. The old ledger had yellowed pages and curled corners. I traced the youthful yet determined handwriting. The profit from the company's very first tech gig was only $300. The first big client was a $30,000 contract I signed after enduring 3 exhausting dinner meetings. Then there was the time our partner defrauded us and ran off with the funds, leaving only a few $100 in the account. I had gone back to Florida, enduring my mother's tearful scolding, to borrow $15,000 in lifeline money. These things were the roots of the company and our marriage. On what grounds did Lucas claim the company belonged to him alone? Looking at the reports from the past 2 years, there were more holes than Swiss cheese. Several $1-million transfers were entirely unaccounted for, listed vaguely as project investments or equipment procurement, yet there were no corresponding project files or purchase orders. The most glaring transfer was a $500,000 wire from the corporate account to a company called Starlight Interiors 3 months ago. The memo boldly read, Mercer Island Villa Renovation, using corporate funds to renovate a love nest for his mistress. Lucas, you truly are a romantic. Then there was Morningstar Tech, a new company registered 6 months ago. The registered agent was Chloe Evans. I almost laughed out loud. So he had paved the road long ago, planning to transfer the core business and clients to this shell company. Once Carter Innovations was hollowed out and bankrupt, he could take his little beauty to the new company and fly away together, leaving a massive mess and potential debts for me. In his dreams, as dawn approached, I rested my head on the desk and dozed off for a bit. My dreams were bizarre and chaotic. When I woke up with a stiff, aching neck, I looked at the woman in the mirror with pale skin, dark circles, and a downturned mouth. I took a deep breath. No. I couldn't go see Grace Harper looking like a defeated loser. I covered the dark circles with concealer and applied my brightest, boldest red lipstick. With one swipe of lipstick, the eyes of the woman in the mirror instantly turned sharp. That ruthless energy, sparked by betrayal and humiliation, returned to my eyes. Picking up my phone, I called my cousin Ethan Wright. The kid was a top-tier cybersecurity expert who had spent years in Silicon Valley before being poached back to Seattle with a massive salary last year. Sam, what time is it? Ethan's voice was thick with sleep. Ethan, I need a massive favor. Data recovery and tracing. As fast as possible. My voice was a little hoarse but incredibly resolute. The other end of the line was silent for 2 seconds. Ethan's voice instantly sharpened. Sam, did Lucas do something? He didn't just do something. He crossed every line. I sneered and quickly summarized the situation and my findings, heavily emphasizing the abnormal cash flow to Morningstar Tech and the evidence of his relationship with Chloe. After hearing this, Ethan cursed out loud. That son of a bitch. Sam, don't worry. Leave it to me. Give me half a day. Damn it, the firewall on his company's garbage system is something I helped him upgrade as a favor 2 years ago. Leaving a back door is a professional habit. I never thought it would actually come in handy. Hanging up, I looked at the woman in the mirror with lips like fire and eyes like ice. I whispered softly, Lucas, you thought I'd cry and beg you not to leave. No, I'm going to make you and Chloe experience true hell. The game has begun. At exactly 10 a.m., I pushed open the heavy double doors of Grace Harper's law firm. Her office was on the top floor of a premier downtown high-rise, boasting a panoramic view of the bustling city skyline. 10 years ago, the tiny office where Lucas and I started was in that. Samantha, when you make a move, you really go for the throat, huh? Grace pushed me down onto the wide, comfortable leather sofa in her office and handed me a steaming cup of Earl Grey tea. She was wearing a sharply tailored custom suit, her eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses as piercing as a hawk's. That text of yours made my blood pressure spike. Lucas is playing extremely dirty. The draft separation agreement his lawyer sent over this morning is treating you like a beggar. Sure, he's leaving that old suburban house to you, but he wants the shares of the heavily indebted company. He wants all the savings, mutual funds, and investments. He even explicitly stated that there are no joint debts. Bullshit. Last month, our company just took out a $12 million loan to acquire new server farms. He wants to make that debt vanish into thin air. I held the warm teacup, my fingertips subconsciously rubbing the rim. He probably thinks I'm still that naive woman from 7 years ago who listened to his lies about providing for me while I stayed home to prep for a second child, obediently handing over all my management rights. He forgot who closed those impossible hardball clients during the company's first 5 years. The sunlight outside was a bit glaring. I squinted slightly. Grace pushed up her glasses and smiled. Now this is the Samantha Carter I know. The star debater in college who could argue the opposing counsel into complete silence. Her eyes showed admiration before she turned serious. Did you bring the stuff? I pulled a black USB drive from my bag and handed it to her. This is the backup of the company's financial data from the last 2 years that I managed to pull, along with the suspicious points I flagged. Find out exactly how much of our net worth Lucas has funneled away, and what the hell that Morningstar Tech really is. I paused, my voice turning freezing cold. Also, I need evidence solid enough to nail him to the wall as the at-fault party. Preferably the kind that can send him to federal prison. Grace took the flash drive, her expression grave. Relax, leave it to me. But she looked at me, her tone carrying a warning. Investigations like this usually dig up details more disgusting than you expect. You need to be mentally prepared. I tilted my head back and downed the hot tea in one gulp. That slight burning sensation wasn't 1/10,000th of the icy pain in my chest. I know. No matter how disgusting it is, it's better than being kept in the dark like a fool. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. Ethan Wright walked in carrying a bulging backpack wearing a faded hoodie that made him look like a college student skipping class. Sam. He came right in and gave me a tight hug, his voice muffled. That bastard. My nose stung. I patted his back. It's okay, Sam is fine, I'm counting on you now. Ethan let go of me, sat directly on the carpet without another word, and pulled out his top-tier laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Piece of cake. He didn't even look up. My soon-to-be ex-cousin-in-law's corporate security architecture is still the one I rebuilt for him 2 years ago. I know the back doors like the back of my hand. Sam, tell me exactly what you need. Grace leaned in with interest. Well, you kept a trick up your sleeve. Professional paranoia. Always leave a back door, Ethan said, his fingers never stopping. Just never thought I'd actually need it. Be specific, I said in a deep voice. All his chat logs with Chloe, email exchanges, wire transfer records, especially the money for that Mercer Island mansion and the car he likely bought her. Which account did it come from? And, my voice grew colder, any evidence proving they've been cohabitating long-term and acting as husband and wife. The more direct, the better. Got it, Ethan acknowledged. Cascades of code fell down the screen like a waterfall. The waiting time was agonizingly long. Grace analyzed every legal trap buried in the draft divorce agreement. Lucas's schemes to hide assets and fabricate debt were child's play to her experienced eyes. But hearing every clause designed to drain me to my bones still sent chills through my heart. He truly intended for me to walk away with nothing, preferably buried under a mountain of inexplicable debt, never to rise again. About 3 hours later, Ethan suddenly let out a low gasp. Found it. Grace and I immediately leaned over. The screen was packed with dizzying bank transfer records, The most recent one was the exact $500,000 wire from the corporate account to Starlight Interiors 3 months ago. Scrolling further back, there were multiple transfers ranging from tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were routed through various obscure trading companies but ultimately landed in Chloe Evans's personal account. One $300,000 transfer clearly stated Porsche 911 purchase in the memo. The date was 6 months ago. This is already corporate embezzlement. I pointed at the screen, my fingers shaking with rage. There's better stuff. Ethan clicked open a decrypted cloud storage folder. A pile of photos popped up. The photos showed Lucas and a young girl kissing and playing under the blue skies and clear waters of Street Bart's. The girl was wearing a sexy bikini, smiling with arrogant triumph. The timestamp on the photos was late November of last year. At that time, Lucas had told me he was in London handling a critical project he absolutely couldn't step away from. So the critical project was vacationing with his side piece. I stared daggers at that young, vibrant face in the photo. It was indeed Chloe, the same girl flaunting her victory at the mansion gates yesterday, last November. They had been together for almost a year by then, and I, like a total idiot, was worried he wasn't eating or sleeping well overseas, making homemade meals to freeze for when he got back. "Who is this woman?" Grace asked the question I wanted to ask. Ethan quickly searched for Chloe Evans in the internal system, 25 years old. Passed the interviews and joined your marketing department last June. Graduated from a third-rate college, mediocre resume. But he paused and tapped the keyboard a few times. Here's the kicker. Her final interviewer was Lucas Carter himself, last June. My brain buzzed. That was exactly when Lucas started using corporate expansion and client dinners as excuses for frequent overtime and business trips. So from the very beginning, he had planted her right under his nose. He had been playing this game for so long, so carefully. Keep digging. My voice was terribly dry. I want to know every filthy thing they've done. Text messages, emails, hotel records, everything. All of it. Grace quietly held my hand. It was ice cold. Ethan looked at me with concern but nodded anyway. Another hour passed, and the disgusting evidence piled up before us. Lucas hadn't only bought Chloe a mansion and a luxury car, but he had also purchased a high-end condo in downtown Seattle for her, completely registered under Chloe's name. The funding trails all led back to corporate accounts. Their text messages were even more sickeningly explicit. Chloe called him hubby and babe, whining and begging for luxury goods. Lucas called her his princess, saying things like, "Once I get rid of the old woman at home, we can be happy together every day." What disgusted me to the absolute core was the message Lucas sent Chloe on our 9th wedding anniversary. "Have to eat dinner with the stay-at-home nobody tonight." So annoying. "Be good, babe. As soon as dinner is over, I'll come straight to you and make it up to you." I slammed the laptop screen shut. My stomach churned violently. Grace silently handed me a glass of water. I didn't take it, just took deep breaths, forcing myself to calm down. "This evidence is enough to nail him as the at-fault party in a divorce suit," Grace said calmly. "But if you want to completely crush him, make him spit out double what he ate, and even send him to prison, we need more. We need ironclad proof of his systematic asset transfers and corporate embezzlement. That Morningstar tech is the key." I nodded, suddenly remembering something. "Ethan, check if Lucas has registered any new companies in the last few months or if he's connected to any suspicious offshore accounts. I feel like there's a huge problem here." Ethan's keyboard clattered away. Already on it. Sam found something interesting. The new financial system and the old system don't sync data at all. Plus, all audit trails and operation logs have been intentionally disabled or restricted. This is a blatant setup to cook the books and erase traces. The new CFO is named Brad Jenkins. Looking at his resume, he was a so-called financial manager at a shell company that dissolved ages ago. The most important part is, he's Chloe's cousin. Of course, Lucas didn't just betray our marriage. He was systematically betraying the company we built with our blood and sweat, even bringing in this kind of trash to help him drain it dry. That bastard. "Sam, there's more." Ethan's voice carried a hint of excitement. I traced the Global Horizon Corp lead. I found out Lucas is quietly purchasing assets overseas through them. Looks like he's planning to cut and run. Cut and run? In his dreams. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. "Ethan, keep your eyes glued to those funds. Lock down every piece of evidence." That night at 8 p.m. The old spot was a local diner tucked in an alley behind the company, a place that had been open for over a decade, full of greasy charm. Back when we worked late, we used to come here for midnight snacks. In the corner booth, Arthur Sterling was already waiting. He looked much older and more haggard than the last time I saw him. His hair was mostly gray, His eye bags were deep, and he wore simple clothes, a far cry from the sharp-suited VP of finance he used to be. Samantha. Seeing me, Arthur immediately stood up. He lowered his voice, filled with urgency and anxiety. You finally came. Sit down, Arthur, I said, signaling him to relax while lowering my own voice. What exactly is going on? Take your time. Arthur looked around cautiously before leaning in, his voice barely audible. Samantha, Lucas has gone insane these last 6 months. He forced us to keep 2 sets of books, a fake one, dressed up beautifully for the shareholders and the bank, and a real one, tracking all the shady outflows of money. Only he and that new frat boy cousin of hers know the details. Because the veteran staff refused to play along, he found excuses to force us out. My heart sank. Roughly how much has been transferred out? Arthur held up 3 fingers, then quickly flipped his hand. Around $12 million. What's even more terrifying, Arthur's voice trembled, is that last week he used all the company's real estate, equipment, and fixed assets as collateral to take out a $200 million loan from the bank, claiming it was for a new project expansion. But I saw that money never entered the project account. As soon as it cleared, it was shuffled through multiple shell companies. I have no idea where it ended up. $200 million, I gasped. He was planning to completely bleed Carter Innovations dry, leave behind a mountain of debt and an empty shell, and abscond with the cash, leaving me saddled with massive debt. What a vicious heart. Arthur, thank you. Thank you so much. I tightly gripped his rough hands, my eyes burning. You took a huge risk telling me this. Where are you working now? Arthur smiled bitterly and shook his head. Haven't found anything yet. Lucas put the word out in the industry that our batch of veteran employees are incompetent, outdated, and insubordinate. Now none of our peers dare to hire us easily. He sighed, full of helplessness and anger. A strong wave of guilt and rage washed over me. It was my compromise and trust back then that gave Lucas the chance to slowly strip my power, dragging down these loyal, hardworking veterans. Arthur, I made an immediate decision. My tone was resolute. Next Monday, report to attorney Grace Harper's law firm. She needs a highly experienced, financially savvy, and ethical special assistant to help with financial analysis for economic cases. Your salary will match your Carter Innovations standard, and I'll bump it up by 30%. Arthur froze, his eyes instantly turning red. Samantha, I couldn't possibly. Stop calling me boss. I patted his hand, speaking sincerely. Call me Sam. I failed all of you these past few years. I trusted Lucas too much and gave him an opening, dragging you all down. Don't worry, I'll get justice for everyone. After seeing off a profusely thankful Arthur, I stood in the chill of the early winter night wind, looking at the neon sign at the end of the alley. The fire in my heart burned brighter than ever. Lucas, Chloe, Brad, you think the game is over and you can sleep soundly on stolen fruits? Dream on. This battle has only reached halftime. Just wait. Your good days are numbered. The information Arthur brought was critical. Overnight, I compiled photos of the cooked books and the key points of our conversation, sending them to Grace and Ethan. Grace replied that this evidence, combined with what we already had, formed a solid chain proving Lucas was suspected of corporate embezzlement, fraudulent capital withdrawal, and even bank fraud. Ethan immediately began tracking the ultimate destination of that $200 million loan. Just as I was intensely gathering evidence, a gold-embossed invitation arrived at the house. It was the company's year-end appreciation gala. The sender, naturally, was Lucas. This was clearly going through the motions, and possibly even a deliberate humiliation. But I had to go. This wasn't just a chance to observe the enemy up close and contact other veteran employees. It was a stage to declare my presence and stabilize morale. I needed everyone to know that Samantha Carter hadn't quit this company, that she still owned a piece of it. The gala was held in the grand ballroom of the city's most luxurious 5-star hotel. Crystal chandeliers glittered, designer clothes brushed against each other, and wine glasses clinked. I chose a flawlessly tailored, understated but exceptionally high-quality black velvet gown, paired only with a simple set of pearl earrings. My hair was meticulously pinned back. I wanted everyone to remember me, Samantha Carter, as the legitimate co-founder of Carter Innovations, the woman who built the empire on her own merit, not some trophy wife who slept her way up with a young body. When Lucas saw me, his professional smile clearly stiffened for a second. A flash of surprise and gloom crossed his eyes, but he quickly put on his hypocritical social mask, walking over with a champagne glass. Sam, you made it. Beside him, Chloe was wearing an extremely flashy, deep V backless red sequin gown. Her neck and wrists were weighed down with blinding diamond jewelry, making her look like a walking jewelry counter. She clung tightly to Lucas's arm, pressing her entire body against him. Her intention to mark her territory couldn't be more obvious. "Oh, so this is the legendary Mrs. Carter." Chloe purposely raised her voice, her cloying tone piercing through the slightly noisy room. She looked me up and down, her gaze like a poisoned needle. "I've heard so much about you." Finally getting to see the real person. She emphasized the words real person, drawing low, mocking chuckles from a few new executives and their dates nearby. I didn't flinch. I even stepped forward and extended my hand, wearing the poised, aloof smile of a true hostess. "Hello, Director Evans. I hear you've been outstanding since joining, managing the marketing department so efficiently. You must be working very hard." I subtly emphasized certain words. Chloe clearly didn't expect me to be so calm and even turn the tables on her. She lost her words, her fake smile slipping. Lucas quickly tried to smooth things over, attempting to display his magnanimity and control. "Sam, let me get you some champagne." "No need." I smiled and politely declined, my tone light but unquestionable. "I'll get it myself. You two go entertain the other guests. No need to look after me." After speaking, I nodded slightly and walked straight to a corner of the ballroom. Several familiar veteran faces were standing there. The sales director Marcus, lead engineer Kevin, and two middle management pillars who had held their ground and avoided the purge. Seeing me, their eyes lit up and they immediately gathered around with their glasses, unable to hide their excitement and concern. "Samantha," Marcus's voice choked up a bit. He lowered his voice. "Are you doing all right?" "I'm doing very well." I raised my glass and clinked it against theirs, my gaze sweeping across their sincere faces. "How is the company lately? Is everyone okay?" Marcus looked around cautiously and leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It's a disaster, Sam." Lucas forcibly transferred several of our most stable 7-year clients over to that Morningstar Tech. Now all we get are low-margin, high-demand garbage contracts with bad reputations. The quality control is non-existent. Yesterday, a whole batch of goods was aggressively rejected by a client because of cut corners. But Lucas actually told production to change the dates, repackage them, and ship them back out. Isn't he just destroying the Carter brand? Morningstar Tech again. It seemed Lucas's pace in transferring assets and hollowing out the company was accelerating. "Marcus, Kevin, everyone," I said in a low, firm voice. "Hang in there a little longer. Believe me, things will turn around very soon. Keep an eye out for me, especially regarding finance, core clients, and technical data. If anything weird happens, contact me immediately." Marcus nodded hard, his eyes red. "Don't worry, Sam. Everyone is furious. The company is our blood and sweat. We can't let it be ruined like this." Just then, Lucas took the stage to give a speech. Looking sharp in his suit under the spotlight, he spoke grandly about corporate strategic transformation, embracing the new internet wave, and a bright future, sounding every bit the ambitious entrepreneur. When he mentioned a special thanks to his right-hand woman, marketing director Chloe Evans, for her outstanding contribution to the company's pivot, the applause from the crowd was scattered and mostly polite. A few outspoken veterans simply walked out in protest. Chloe, on the other hand, strutted onto the stage like a peacock unfurling her feathers, standing next to Lucas and smugly accepting the lukewarm applause. That glaring red dress under the lights felt like the ultimate mockery and insult to my 10 years of dedication. I watched the man and woman on stage, posing flawlessly as a power couple, my heart an expanse of frozen calm. Turning around, I quietly slipped out of the ballroom, wanting to get some air on the terrace. Just as I approached the lounge area connecting to the terrace, I heard two young executives recently promoted by Lucas hiding behind a pillar, chatting in low voices. Their tone was full of schadenfreude and excitement for the future. "The boss's move is brilliant. Bait and switch. Sideline the washed-up wife, hollow out the company, and move all the core assets over to Morningstar in the Cayman side. Once this place files for bankruptcy and the creditors come knocking, the boss will already be living it up overseas with Chloe." Man, what a play. But that Samantha Carter was no pushover back in the day, right? I heard she deserves half the credit for building the company. Pushover or not, she can't beat the boss now. Did you see how hard she was trying to keep it together today? I heard she can barely get through the company doors anymore and she has no real power. Women, man, once they get old, they lose their capital. You gotta rely on youth and beauty. Look at Chloe. I leaned against the cold wall, my fingertips turning slightly numb. So in the eyes of these people, my 10 years of sacrifice and perseverance were reduced to old women lose their capital. And Lucas's plan was far more meticulous and vicious than I imagined. He didn't just want to discard me. He wanted me, the innocent employees, and the shareholders to shoulder massive debt while he shed his skin and lived like a king. Adjusting my breathing, I prepared to return to the ballroom. Just as I turned around, I collided head-on with someone. Ah! A dramatic shriek echoed. A full glass of crimson liquid splashed directly onto the chest of Chloe's expensive red dress. The dark red wine stain rapidly spread across her pale skin and sequin fabric, leaving her looking like a mess. What are you doing? Are you blind? Chloe instantly blew up, pointing at my face and screaming. Her carefully contoured face was contorted with anger and heartbreak over the dress. I'm so sorry. I apologized immediately, my voice carrying the perfect pitch of weakness and panic. I intentionally swayed on my feet and put a hand to my forehead. I haven't been sleeping well lately. I felt a bit dizzy and lost my balance. I'm truly sorry, Director Evans. I'll pay for your dress. My expression looked sincere, infused with the despondency of a broken-hearted wife. Chloe was about to explode again, but her eyes darted around as if she suddenly thought of a brilliant idea. The rage on her face was instantly replaced by an undisguised malicious glee. She took a step forward, leaning close to my ear and lowering her voice. That cloying, overpowering perfume mixed with the smell of red wine made me want to gag. Samantha Carter. Her voice dripped with the arrogance and contempt of a victor. If you know what's good for you, sign the papers. Lucas stopped loving you a long time ago. The one he loves now is me. The one he's obsessed with is me. Do you know what he says about you behind your back? She paused intentionally, relishing my instantly paled face, which I achieved by biting my lip hard. Then she enunciated every word with venomous delight. He said you're terrible in bed, old and boring. Just looking at you kills his appetite. Nothing like me. I pretended to be deeply wounded, my body giving a barely perceptible shudder. My eyes quickly turned red, half acting, half genuinely disgusted. My voice trembled with a sob. Have you guys been together a long time? Over a year, Chloe showed off, the smugness practically spilling out of her voice. Every time he went on a business trip, he took me. Oh, right, the water in street. Bart's is so blue, the sand is so soft. We even did it on the beach. You know what I mean. She winked suggestively, the implication clear. I fought back the nausea in my stomach and the urge to slap her face, continuing to fish for information. My voice sounded even more defeated and fragile. So he bought you the Mercer Island mansion too? Of course, Chloe didn't hesitate, tilting her chin even higher. And not just that, he bought me an ocean view condo downtown too. It's in my name only. Oh, and he paid off my parents' mortgage back in Florida just to spoil me. Suddenly, she grew suspicious, glaring at me. Why are you asking all this? Nothing. I lowered my head, my voice so depressed it sounded like I was about to cry the next second. I just wanted to know where I lost. Chloe smiled a victor's smile. It was blinding and stupid. You lost because you're old. You're stupid, and you can't keep up with Lucas anymore. Men. They all like young and energetic women. Just accept your fate. She flipped her hair, turned to leave, then remembered something. She looked back and added with the tone of someone giving charity, "Oh, by the way, Lucas said he's filing for a court order to freeze all your personal accounts next week. So, you better sign the papers fast if you want to keep whatever dignity you have left." With that, she twisted her waist and walked swiftly toward the restrooms, wearing her wine stains and her pride. Watching that glaring red figure disappear around the corner, I slowly straightened my back and wiped away the non-existent tear from the corner of my eye. Where was the fragility and defeat on my face now? Only icy mockery and the sharp thrill of a plan succeeding remained. Excellent. The micro-digital recorder hidden in the lining of my clutch had clearly captured every single word she just said. Especially the downtown condo, the mortgage payoff, and the plan to freeze my accounts, those were the key pieces of information. Lucas, Chloe, your arrogance and profound stupidity just handed me the best weapons. This gala was definitely worth attending. Chloe's spectacular performance and that self-incriminating recording acted like a shot of adrenaline. As soon as I got home, I sent the encrypted audio file to Grace and Ethan. Grace replied that this was basically handing herself in on a silver platter. It perfectly corroborated Lucas's transfer of massive joint marital assets to a third party during the marriage, which would be extremely advantageous evidence for asset division. Ethan immediately started doing a deep dive into the Florida real estate leads Chloe mentioned. However, before I could even catch my breath, an even more unexpected and crucial breakthrough delivered itself to my door. The next evening, I was at my computer analyzing the complex routing diagrams Ethan sent me regarding Lucas moving funds through the Global Horizon offshore company. The doorbell suddenly rang. The security monitor showed none other than Arthur Sterling, the recently forced-out VP of Finance. His face was pale, his forehead beaded with fine sweat, his eyes a mix of panic, resolve, and lingering fear. The moment I opened the door, without a word of explanation, He shoved a small black flash drive into my hand. His fingers were ice cold. Sam, hurry. Keep this safe. Arthur's voice was kept to a frantic whisper. This is a copy I risked everything to steal. Most of the real cash flow records of Lucas embezzling money through hidden channels over the past 6 months are on here. For every transaction, I tried my best to annotate the final destination and suspicious details. The key thing is, a huge chunk of money went to buy his little mistress's parents' commercial property in Florida. The funds came right out of the company, disguised as raw material procurement. My heart pounded violently. I tightly gripped the tiny yet immeasurably heavy flash drive. Arthur, how did you get this? It's way too dangerous. Lucas must be jumping at shadows right now, and the finance department is definitely locked down by his frat boy cousin. Arthur panted heavily, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. I didn't care anymore, Sam. This afternoon, that Brad Jenkins suddenly issued an order to seal all original vouchers and ledgers in the finance department under the guise of system upgrades and archive organization. Said they needed to be moved to a safer location. I knew right away they were trying to completely destroy the evidence and wipe the slate clean. I waited until they weren't looking and used a backup key and external drive I prepared long ago to rip the core data before they locked it down. I can't stay. I have to go. Arthur, I called out, a massive wave of gratitude and guilt swelling inside me. Thank you, truly. Once this is all over, Sam, Arthur cut me off. His eyes red and his voice choked. Please, take care of yourself. You have to put that bastard in prison and get justice for all of us and the company. With that, he looked nervously up and down the street, turned, and hurried into the shadows. I closed the door and leaned my back against the cold wood, my heart hammering like a drum. The tiny flash drive in my hand felt terrifyingly hot. This drive very likely contained the raw, ironclad proof needed to nail Lucas for embezzlement, corporate theft, and even corporate bribery disguised as buying real estate for Chloe's parents. I went straight back to my office and plugged the drive into the computer. There weren't many files, but they were impeccably organized. An encrypted Excel spreadsheet opened to reveal dense but clearly categorized real cash flows. Dates, amounts, outgoing accounts, handlers, and ultimate destination accounts or suspicious intermediaries. It was crystal clear and absolutely shocking. The largest sum, $7 million, flowed directly to an overseas account controlled by Global Horizon Corp. Several million-dollar transfers listed Chloe's father as the payee. The memos read real estate purchase and commercial investment. There was also a scanned copy of a special internal directive signed by Brad Jenkins, demanding that a $100,000 consulting fee be wired straight to Chloe's college freshman brother. Ironclad proof. Lucas, this time you are completely finished. My hands shook with excitement as I quickly zipped and encrypted the files, ready to send them to Grace. Right at that moment, my phone began vibrating violently. The name flashing on the screen acted like a bucket of ice water, instantly extinguishing the fire in my heart and pushing my guard to the absolute maximum. My mother-in-law, Martha Carter. Ever since our last terrible argument at the house months ago regarding family finances, we hadn't spoken. Her calling me now meant nothing good. I hesitated for 2 seconds before hitting answer, simultaneously tapping the phone's built-in call recording feature out of instinct. Hello, Martha. My voice was flat, betraying no emotion. The voice that came through the phone wasn't my mother-in-law's usual acidic, condescending tone. It was a stranger's anxious, professional voice. Hello, is this Samantha Carter? This is the emergency department at Seattle General Hospital. Your mother-in-law, Martha Carter, was just brought in by ambulance. Preliminary diagnosis is acute angina. Her condition is unstable, and she's highly agitated, demanding to see you. Can you come down as soon as possible? Hospital? ER? My heart tightened, but it was immediately swallowed by a massive wave of suspicion. The sympathy play. She used a fake fainting spell last time to guilt-trip me into paying off Lucas's deadbeat brother's gambling debts. This time it had upgraded to angina. What is her exact condition? Which hospital? Do I need to contact my husband, Lucas Carter? I asked calmly, not letting a single flaw in the caller's tone slip past me. The patient is in bed 3 of the ER observation ward. Initial checks show it was induced by extreme emotional distress. We've administered emergency treatment and stabilized her for now, but she keeps saying you're the only one who can save her son, insisting she must see you. We are currently unable to reach Mr. Lucas Carter. The nurse's voice carried a professional helplessness that didn't sound fake. For her son again. I gripped the phone tightly. Grace's warning echoed in my ears. Watch out for any kind of trap, especially at this critical juncture. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, especially private settlements or withdrawing lawsuits. Understood. Thank you. I'm on my way. I hung up, my mind a mess. Go or not go? If she was truly having a medical emergency and something happened to her, Lucas would definitely throw all the dirty water on me, claiming I caused her stress and attacked my character in the court of public opinion. But if this was another act, at this critical moment, that Mama's boy and his mother would pull any dirty trick. Ultimately, that damned sense of obligation ground into me by 10 years of marital life, along with a wariness of the potential PR risks, made me decide to go. I couldn't let her actually die, or at least, I couldn't hand her son substantive ammunition to use against me. But I had to be fully prepared. I changed into simple clothes, left my purse, took only my phone, keys, and a backup digital recorder, and drove to the hospital. On the way, I texted Grace my location and concerns. In the observation ward, Martha Carter was propped up in a hospital bed. Her face was indeed somewhat ashen, an IV drip in her arm and an oxygen tube in her nose. She looked much more haggard and older than the last time I saw her. It didn't look entirely faked. Martha. I stopped a safe distance of 3 feet from the bed, my tone flat. How are you feeling? What did the doctors say? Sam. Martha opened her eyes, her cloudy gaze focusing on my face. She surprisingly showed a trace of vulnerability and pleading. She reached a trembling hand out to me. Sam, Lucas. Lucas is ruined. Those reports are all fake. Someone is trying to destroy him. Sam, only you can save him. Drop the lawsuit. Tell the court it was all a misunderstanding. We're family. You can't just watch him go to federal prison. My heart went ice cold, sinking into a freezer. Of course, it was all for her precious son. Whenever something went wrong, the first thought was always how to make me sacrifice, how to make me step back to protect him. I pulled my hand back without expression, my voice completely deadpan, even carrying a trace of icy mockery. Martha, the evidence in court is all real. Lucas didn't just betray our marriage. He betrayed the company we built together and broke the law. In the face of the law, there is no such thing as family. Martha's emotions instantly spiked. The heart rate monitor jumped wildly, letting out a piercing alarm. He's your husband. 10 years of marriage. How can you be so cruel as to send him to prison? Are you trying to kill me? She beat her chest violently, coughing, her face flushing red. A nurse rushed in at the sound. The patient cannot be agitated. Family members, please watch your tone. Martha immediately grabbed the nurse's hand like a lifeline, pointing at me and wailing. Nurse, look at her. Look at this daughter-in-law of mine. She's trying to put me in an early grave. If my son goes to jail, I won't live either. She cried, snot and tears streaming down her face. A truly convincing performance. I watched this familiar and nauseating scene with cold eyes. Last time it was faking a fainting spell, this time it was faking a critical illness. The script was identical. Truly, like mother, like son. Even their emotional blackmail tactics were cut from the same cloth. Only this time, the acting was more committed, and the hospital props were more realistic. Martha, get some rest and cooperate with the doctors. I took a step back, my voice cold as ice. I have things to do at the company. I'm leaving. Wait, Samantha Carter! Martha struggled to sit up, coughing until it sounded like her lungs were tearing, her face covered in tears and mucus, all image gone. I'm begging you. Drop the suit. Issue a statement saying it was a misunderstanding, just a marital spat. If Lucas goes to jail, I'll die right here in front of you. Saying that, she actually reached to pull out her IV needle and oxygen tube. The nurse and a responding orderly immediately tackled her, holding her down. The hospital room descended into chaos. Other patients and families cast curious, sympathetic, or condemning looks my way, making me feel that familiar, suffocating moral blackmail and public pressure. This bottomless emotional extortion, using family ties and life as leverage, disgusted and chilled me even more than Lucas's naked betrayal. This mother and son were exactly the same. For their own benefit, they could push someone into a fire pit without a shred of guilt, and then expect gratitude in return. I took a deep breath, ignoring the hysterical wailing behind me, the nurse's warnings, and the strange looks from bystanders. I turned, straightened my spine, and strode out of the hospital room, effectively severing the last ridiculous tie to this twisted family. Leaning against the wall of the cold, empty hospital corridor, I finally let myself take deep, rapid breaths. My stomach churned. The phone in my pocket buzzed. It was a message from Grace. Sam, just got word. Lucas used your intentional aggravation of his mother, leading to a critical medical condition, to file a restraining order against you, and he applied for another media gag order. His reasons sound a lot more solid this time. This mama's boy and his mother work perfectly together, don't they? Looking at the text, and thinking back to the absurd, nauseating farce in the hospital room. A column of icy fury shot straight to my head. Good. Very good, Lucas, Martha. Since your mother-son bond is so deep and you insist on fighting dirty to the bitter end, don't blame me for sending you both to hell. This war is no longer just a grudge between me and Lucas. Neither of you is getting away. Breaking free from the suffocating environment of the hospital, I leaned against the cold car door. The sharp winter air flooded my lungs, but it couldn't disperse the gloom and rage in my heart. My mother-in-law's face, etched with moral blackmail, alternated with Lucas's hypocritical, ruthless expression, making my stomach turn. Grace's text was like the final snowflake landing on an already frozen lake. Restraining order, gag order. Trying to shut me up completely and trap me. Dream on. The anger didn't cost me my rationality. Instead, it acted as high-octane fuel, making my mind exceptionally clear and cold. I opened the car door, got in, and didn't start the engine right away. Instead, I called Ethan. Sam. Ethan's voice was cautious. Why does your voice sound so cold? Something happened. I briefly recounted the hospital performance and Grace's message. Lucas is acting like a cornered dog. Ethan, we are out of time. How is the investigation into the offshore accounts and the ultimate destination of that $200 million going? We must get direct evidence of his asset transfers and intent to flee. Over the phone, I heard Ethan furiously typing on his keyboard. Damn it, this bastard is pure scum. Sam, I found it. Global Horizon Corp., that offshore company, is just a money laundering transit hub. Lucas used it to quietly transfer all the technical patents, production lines, and core blueprints of the company's most profitable smart home series, plus 2 major overseas clients, over to Morningstar Tech. I found the transfer contracts. They're stamped by Morningstar, but the authorization signatures and board resolutions were forged by Lucas. Also, out of that $200 million loan, $12 million has already been laundered through Global Horizon and dropped into an encrypted Swiss bank account. Another $10 million went in multiple batches to Chloe, her parents, her brother, and that Brad Jenkins. Damn it, even her frat boy brother magically got a $100,000 consulting fee dropped into his account. My hands on the steering wheel were freezing, but the fire in my heart was boiling. $12 million in an anonymous Swiss account. This already constituted money laundering and international wire fraud. Lucas, your greed and audacity truly know no bounds. Is this evidence enough to nail him for economic crimes? I asked in a deep voice. Nail him for economic crimes? Absolutely, Ethan said confidently. But Sam, we're missing one direct explosive hammer to swing public opinion and give the judge a visceral impression of how bad this is. If we can prove he's the actual controller of Morningstar Tech, or get a recording or video of him admitting to moving assets and planning to run, that would be perfect. That would ensure he never recovers. Proving he's the controller of Morningstar, that requires highly direct evidence, like proxy agreements or funding proofs signed by him. He definitely hid those deep. As for getting him to admit it, unless his brain was flooded with water. Right at that moment, a calendar alert popped up on my phone. Chloe's birthday. Tomorrow. A thought struck like lightning, instantly cleaving through the fog and illuminating the path ahead. Ethan. My voice trembled slightly from excitement. Tomorrow is Chloe's birthday. Given Lucas's current state of being desperate to placate her while dealing with his own messes, he'll definitely try to make her happy. The company is a mess right now. He wouldn't dare celebrate lavishly in public. The most likely scenario is a private celebration in his office. That's the place he feels is the safest, the most private, and best displays his control. Ethan instantly understood, his voice turning tense. Sam, you want to sneak into his office to look for evidence while they're celebrating and their guard is down? It's too dangerous. What if you get caught? The higher the risk, the higher the reward. I cut him off, my heart racing, but my logic impeccably clear. It's his office. That place he thinks is an absolute fortress likely hides the most critical original evidence, like the Morningstar actual controller documents or a more direct escape plan. When they're celebrating tomorrow, their attention will be entirely on each other. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Ethan, help me. The phone went silent for a few seconds. Ethan gritted his teeth and made the call. Fine. Sam, I'll help you. Tomorrow, I'll provide full remote support. I'll hack the company's camera and access systems to create a safe infiltration window and extraction time for you. But you have to promise me, safety first. Once you have the stuff, get out immediately. Don't linger. I promise. I agreed without hesitation. I barely slept that night, not from anxiety or fear, but because I was running precise mental simulations of tomorrow's operation. The layout of Lucas's office, the location of the wall safe hidden behind the bookshelf, where he might hide the spare key. I remembered his habit of hiding spare keys for important areas under the drip tray of a half-dead potted plant on the windowsill, the optimal entry and exit routes, potential contingencies and backup plans. Every detail played on a loop in my head, clear as a movie. The next afternoon, like a patient hunter, I waited quietly for Ethan's signal, right on time. Sam. Lucas ordered delivery from a 3-star Michelin restaurant. 2 portions going to his office at 5:10 p.m. Chloe went in 10 minutes ago. The door is closed, cameras are looped. Security clearance is temporarily hacked and cloned to your phone. Ready when you are. The fire escape cameras for their floor are on a separate circuit, and I've disabled them. You have an estimated 30-minute window. The time had come. I took a deep breath, changed into a dark blue uniform identical to the building's janitorial staff, put on a cap and a surgical mask, and grabbed a canvas bag holding basic cleaning supplies and my special gear. I drove to the vicinity of the office. At 4:55 p.m., I blended into the off-work crowd and easily walked into the building lobby. No one pays attention to a cleaning lady. I walked quickly to the fire stairs, avoiding the monitored elevator banks. Following Ethan's directions, he had already compromised the cameras in the stairwells I needed to pass. Pushing open the heavy fire door, I slipped into the quiet stairwell. My heartbeat was steady and powerful. My footsteps silent. Lucas's office was at the end of the hall. Like a shadow, I approached silently. The heavy, solid wood door was shut tight, but the faint sounds of smooth jazz, a woman's breathy laughter, and Lucas's low, doting murmurs seeped through. Now is the time. I quickly moved to the windowsill, carefully shifted the yellowing money tree pot, and there it was, a small silver key resting quietly in the corner of the damp drip tray. I picked up the key, my palms slightly sweaty, but my eyes remained calm. Holding my breath, I gently slid the key into the lock and slowly turned it. A nearly inaudible click sounded. The lock was open. I pushed the door open just a crack. The music was clearer now, along with Chloe's giggling and Lucas's voice. Like a ghost, I slipped silently into the office, pulling the door mostly shut behind me. The massive mahogany desk and the seating area perfectly blocked my line of sight and perfectly hid me from the couple inside. My target was clear. The decorative cabinet in the corner, flush with the wall, hid his real safe. I popped open the cabinet's hidden panel, revealing the heavy, German-engineered safe. I pulled out a more intricate key. When this safe was first installed, Lucas had proudly shown off its security features and solemnly handed me a spare key, claiming the most important things in the house naturally required the wife to have access. He had likely forgotten all about it, or never imagined I'd use it here. I inserted the key. Paired with Ethan's remotely cracked passcode based on Lucas's most used number combinations, the heavy door swung open with a click. Inside weren't stacks of cash or jewelry, but thick manila folders and storage drives. Time was running out. I searched quickly and systematically. A manila envelope labeled Morningstar Core caught my eye. I pulled it out. Inside were the complete corporate registry copies for Morningstar Tech, the original proxy agreements explicitly showing Lucas as the actual funder and controller, and authorization letters signed by his own hand. Ironclad proof. Another folder was labeled Global Horizon Routing. It contained offshore account opening documents, correspondence with the Swiss bank, and copies of several massive wire transfer directives, all bearing Lucas's signature. The last item was a thick, unlabeled archive box. I opened it, and my scalp went numb. Inside were brand new passports for Lucas and Chloe, complete application packets for Canadian investor visas, and shockingly, a forged divorce settlement dated for next month. Their plan was to get the money, immediately flee the country, and disappear entirely. Ironclad proof. I suppressed my wildly beating heart and surging emotions, whipped out my phone, put it on silent, and started taking rapid-fire photos. I photographed the proxy agreements, his signatures, the Swiss bank directives, the fake divorce papers, and the visa apps. Click, click, click. Every shot was crystal clear. Simultaneously, I used a high-res microscanner I brought to quickly scan the absolute most crucial pages. Just then, the sound of footsteps and high heels clicking against the floor approached from the lounge area. Chloe's sweet voice rang out. "Lucas, I'm going to the restroom to touch up my makeup." The footsteps headed straight for the office door. My heart stopped. My muscles seized. With no time to think, I shoved the folders back into the safe in their exact original order at breakneck speed, slammed the door, turned the key, and like a startled panther, dove silently into the deep shadows beneath the massive desk. I curled into a tight ball, held my breath, and froze. The office door opened. Chloe hummed a tune as she walked in, her heels clacking. She seemed to be in an excellent mood. She twirled in the center of the office, checked her hair and dress in the reflection of the floor-to-ceiling windows, then twisted her waist, hummed her tune, and walked back out. The door clicked shut again. I waited until the footsteps faded completely before I dared to exhale the breath I had been holding. Slow and silent. My back was drenched in cold sweat. That was too close. Not daring to delay a second longer, I slipped out of the office as silently as I had entered, gently closed the door, returned the key to the tray, and vanished down the fire escape. It wasn't until I was locked inside my car, parked several blocks away, that I fully relaxed, slumping against the seat, trembling slightly from exhaustion. It wasn't fear, but the adrenaline crash after extreme tension. The dozens of photos and scanned documents on my phone weighed a ton. Lucas, Chloe, your vacation dreams are over. I picked up my phone and sent a short, heavy message to Grace and Ethan. The nuke is secured. Prepare to close the net. Having secured the nuclear evidence from Lucas's safe, the massive weight on my chest finally lifted. After I sent the files over, Grace called me, her voice literally shaking with excitement. Sam, incredible. This is airtight. The proxy agreements, forged documents, visa applications, these are enough to nail him to the wall for malicious asset transfer, document forgery, and potentially immigration fraud. We've won the divorce case. And handing this to the feds, he's going to rot. Ethan was equally thrilled. Hell yes, Sam, beautiful work. I've compiled the complete chain of custody for the money transfers and the offshore account screenshots. We're ready to drop the hammer whenever you are. Victory was right in front of us, but Grace, remaining exceptionally calm, poured some necessary cold water on me. Sam, the closer we get, the calmer we must be. Lucas is a cornered beast right now. He could lash out violently at any moment. His restraining order and gag order got tossed by the judge because of our evidence, but he won't give up. And he's been pressuring you to sign that predatory divorce settlement. That is his primary objective right now. I understood what Grace meant. Lucas was desperate for my signature. Once I signed, he'd have legal claim to the vast majority of the company's assets, which he could quickly liquidate before taking Chloe and fleeing. I needed to exploit his desperation and arrogance to deliver the final killing blow. Grace, I said into the phone, my eyes sharp as a knife. Doesn't he want me to sign? Fine, I'll sign. The other end went silent for 2 seconds before Grace caught on. You want to play weak, make him lower his guard, then strike when he's at his most triumphant. Exactly, I said decisively. Doesn't he think I can't escape his grasp? Doesn't he think I'm just a housewife who can't survive without him? Then I'll put on a show. I'll play the broken, desperate woman who has no choice but to surrender and sign. Just when he and Chloe think they've won it all, we'll smash this mountain of evidence and the hammer of the law right into their faces. I want him to know what it feels like to fall from heaven straight into hell. Grace pondered for a moment, then laughed. It was the laugh of someone meeting their match, edged with a cold blade. A brilliant trap. Lure the snake out of the hole. I support this. But the acting has to be flawless. You need a breakdown trigger and a believable process of surrender. Grace and I spent the rest of the call meticulously plotting every step. I was going to play a wife broken by betrayal, humiliated by the mistress, and crushed by the weight of life until she gave up. I needed Lucas and Chloe to firmly believe I had lost all will to fight. Meanwhile, Grace would prepare all the legal filings. The moment I gave the signal that I had signed, she would launch the total offensive filing, the formal divorce suit, lodging criminal complaints, and contacting reliable media outlets to leak the facts. With the plan set, I started rehearsing. I stood in front of the mirror, practicing my eyes. No hatred, no defiance, just hollow, numb despair, with occasional flashes of breaking fragility. I practiced my posture, slumping my shoulders to look exhausted, like my spine had been removed. I practiced my voice, making it weak and choked, carrying the tearful resignation of someone whose heart was dead. A few days later, Lucas's lawyer, Richard, called again. His tone carried obvious impatience and a condescending rush. Miss Carter. Mr. Carter hopes you'll face reality and sign the agreement soon. Dragging this out doesn't do you any favors. It will only make your final terms worse. I used a weak, heavily congested, raspy voice, sounding as if I had just cried my eyes out. Richard. I'll sign. Let's do tomorrow morning. I really can't take it anymore. I sniffled twice, letting out a faint whimper. Richard was clearly stunned that I had caved so quickly. His tone immediately softened, taking on a fake sympathy. There you go. Think of the bright side, Miss Carter. A clean break. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at our firm. I hung up, looked in the mirror at my artificially pale, haggard face with heavy dark circles thanks to staying up late and some makeup tricks, and a cold, sharp smile crept onto my lips. The show was about to start. The next morning, I made myself look like a wreck. No makeup, sallow skin, the fake dark circles. I tied my hair in a messy low ponytail, dampening a few strands so they clung to my neck as if with cold sweat. I wore an old, faded wool cardigan, looking fragile and ready to collapse. I clutched a worn-out canvas tote bag like it was my last lifeline. When I walked into the law firm's conference room, Lucas and Chloe were already sitting across the long table. Seeing my pathetic state, both of them were visibly shocked. Lucas furrowed his brow, a flash of disgust and profound relief crossing his eyes. He spoke in a faux concerned tone that couldn't hide his annoyance. "Samantha, what happened to you?" No genuine concern, only disgust. Chloe, on the other hand, let out an undisguised snicker, leaned into Lucas's ear, and whispered something. They exchanged a triumphant, contemptuous look. She was dressed to the nines today, in full makeup and designer clothes, a stark contrast to my hellish appearance. Richard slid a revised divorce settlement over to me, his tone professional but urgent. "Miss Carter, this is the revised agreement per Mr. Carter's instructions. Take a look. Out of respect for your years together, Mr. Carter has made some concessions." I trembled, my knuckles white as I picked up the papers. The pages rustled in my hands, making it look like I couldn't even hold a piece of paper steady. I kept my head down, my shoulders shaking slightly as if weeping silently. I quickly scanned the clauses. They were still predatory, but he had removed the mention of the $200 million debt, probably realizing it was too obvious. But corporate equity, savings, investments, he left me none of it. He magnanimously allowed me to keep the suburban mansion, which was already in my name. "Sam, don't drag this out." Lucas's voice grew impatient. He tapped the table. "Sign it. The company is drowning in debt. Holding on to equity is just holding on to negative assets. Sign it, and I'll cut you a private check. Enough for you to live a quiet, ordinary life." He emphasized private and ordinary, as if tossing scraps to a beggar. I looked up, my eyes bloodshot thanks to eye drops brimming with tears. I spoke in a shattered, despairing voice. "Lucas, are we really over? 10 years? 10 whole years." My voice choked. The acting was on point. Lucas frowned harder. The last bit of his fake patience vanished, leaving only annoyance and an eagerness to be rid of me. "We've been over for a long time. Stop wasting time talking nonsense." Chloe chimed in with her snide voice, her smugness practically overflowing. "Seriously, Sam, dragging this out doesn't help anyone. Sign the papers, take the money, and find a quiet place to retire. Isn't that nice? Why make a scene and make everyone look bad?" I flinched as if her words had physically struck me. The tears, the eye drops finally spilled over. I lowered my head, my shoulders heaving as if I were crying uncontrollably. I gripped the pen so tightly my knuckles turned white and my veins popped. I forced my hand to shake violently. The pen hovered over the signature line for several seconds before I, as if draining the last ounce of my strength, slowly, heavily signed Samantha Carter at the bottom of the page. The signature was even slightly crooked, looking incredibly weak and desperate. After signing, I collapsed onto the cold conference table, burying my face in my arms, letting out suppressed, animal-like whimpers. My whole body shook. A smart choice. Lucas's voice carried undisguised, profound relief and deep triumph. He quickly snatched the signed agreement as if afraid I'd take it back. "Richard, handle the rest." He stood up, adjusted the cuffs of his expensive suit, and didn't spare me another glance. He wrapped his arm around Chloe's slender waist. "Let's go." Chloe shot me a triumphant look, staring at me like trash finally swept into the garbage can. Then she giggled, leaning into Lucas's chest. The two of them walked out of the conference room with a spring in their step, as if walking toward an infinitely bright future. The moment their footsteps faded completely at the end of the hallway, I instantly stopped shaking and crying. I slowly lifted my head. There were no tears, no sorrow on my face. There was only bone-chilling mockery and the sharp thrill of impending vengeance. I pulled a tissue from my worn canvas bag, slowly wiped the eye drops from my face, and smoothed my hair and clothes. Grace, who had been waiting in the adjacent room, pushed the door open, a thrilled, approving smile on her face. Oscar-worthy. Lucas's ego is in the stratosphere right now. He totally bought it. I took out my phone and quickly texted Ethan. The fish took the bait, pull the net. Then I looked at Grace, my eyes as sharp as a drawn sword, my aura entirely transformed from moments ago. "Grace, we're up. The real war starts now. Lucas Carter, are you ready for your doomsday?" Grace was incredibly efficient. The afternoon I signed the papers, She took the duplicate copy of the agreement I had signed. We had prepared identical blank copies beforehand, along with all our meticulously compiled evidence. From the intimate photos and recordings proving his infidelity, to the financial trails showing Lucas embezzling funds for Chloe's family, to the ironclad proof of him moving core assets and clients to Morningstar and Global Horizon, and finally, the killing blow, the proxy agreement proving he controlled Morningstar and his forged immigration papers. She formally filed the divorce lawsuit with the court. Simultaneously, she submitted a comprehensive report to the FBI and local authorities, accusing Lucas Carter of embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering, corporate forgery, and bank fraud. As planned, a highly curated package of evidence clearly showing Lucas cheating, moving assets, planning to flee, and forcing his wife to sign a predatory agreement was leaked by Ethan through secure channels to the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and top investigative journalists known for their fearlessness. The storm hit with the force of a hurricane. First, the court of public opinion exploded. Although Lucas had tried to get a gag order, it was useless against the undeniable proof we released. Headlines like Tech CEO betrays wife, embezzles millions, flees country while forcing divorce dominated financial pages and social media trends, accompanied by redacted but explosive chat logs, wire transfers, and audio transcripts. The public was in an uproar, overwhelmingly condemning Lucas, sympathizing with me, and questioning the future of Carter Innovations. The company's stock plummeted. Partners called demanding answers. The bank immediately flagged the $200 million loan. Lucas clearly never expected this move. He was frantic, blowing up my phone, which I had blocked long ago. He sent threats and cease and desist letters through his lawyers, accusing me of privacy violations and defamation. He even dragged his mother out again, claiming he'd sue me for elder abuse. But his desperate thrashing was pale and pathetic against the tidal wave of public opinion and ironclad evidence. Next came the iron fist of the law. After reviewing our detailed evidence, federal and local authorities swiftly opened a case and froze the accounts of Lucas, Chloe, and their associates, including Brad Jenkins, Chloe's parents, and her brother. The Mercer Island mansion, the downtown condo, the Porsche, and the Florida real estate were all seized. The assets Lucas had tried to move offshore and to Morningstar Tech were also frozen or placed under investigation by the relevant authorities thanks to our timely tip-offs. Lucas and Chloe fell from the clouds straight into the mud. They could no longer maintain their glamorous facades. They were hounded by reporters every day, questioned by partners, chased by banks, and summoned by federal investigators. Chloe's designer clothes and smug smiles were gone, replaced by terror, crying, and the two of them turning on each other. Lucas was drowning, desperately trying to call in favors to save himself. But under the weight of the evidence and public pressure, his former friends avoided him like the plague. The settlement hearing arrived quickly. This time, it wasn't private mediation. It was a formal hearing before a family court judge. Reporters swarmed outside the courthouse, cameras flashing. I wore a tailored navy blue suit Grace had picked out for me, my makeup flawless, my steps steady, my eyes calm and determined. Grace walked beside me, whispering final reminders. Ethan was there too, shooting me an encouraging look. On the other side, Lucas appeared with his legal team. He looked emaciated, his eyes sunken, his expression dark. The arrogance of the past was entirely gone. Chloe didn't show up. She was supposedly unwell. The hearing was completely one-sided. Grace, acting as my attorney, was logical and razor-sharp. She presented our complete, unbreakable chain of evidence to the court. From the cause of the marriage breakdown, Lucas's long-term infidelity and cohabitation, to the scope of our joint assets and his malicious hiding and transferring of massive funds, to the evidence of his economic crimes. It was a devastating, irrefutable progression. Lucas's lawyer tried to object, attack the legality of the evidence, and question the recordings, but against Grace's ironclad legal arguments and our closed-loop evidence, his defense was feeble. When Grace presented the proxy agreement, the forged immigration papers, and the offshore wire directive signed by Lucas in open court, the gallery gasped. Lucas's face turned deathly pale, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. The most dramatic moment came during witness testimony. We called Arthur Sterling and two other forced-out veteran employees to the stand. Arthur testified in detail about how Lucas forced finance to cook the books, systematically moved corporate funds, and the abnormal routing of the $200 million loan. His testimony was grounded and highly credible, matching the documentary evidence perfectly. Conversely, the witness called by Lucas's side, the new CFO, Brad Jenkins, fell apart quickly under Grace's blistering cross-examination. He contradicted himself constantly and eventually had to admit he was Chloe's cousin, and was either ignorant of key financial moves or just following Mr. Carter's orders. His credibility was destroyed. After a grueling session, the judge adjourned for deliberation. When court reconvened for the verdict, the room was packed, the atmosphere heavy. The judge solemnly read the decision. The court finds that the respondent, Lucas Carter, engaged in long-term infidelity and cohabitation with a third party, constituting major fault in the marriage. The respondent maliciously transferred and hid joint marital assets of an extraordinarily large sum during the marriage and divorce proceedings, severely violating the legal rights of the petitioner, Samantha Carter. Furthermore, the court acknowledges the overwhelming evidence of the respondent abusing his corporate position to transfer core assets and funds through shell and offshore companies. All findings related to potential wire fraud and embezzlement have been referred to the Department of Justice and the FBI. The court orders as follows. 1. The divorce settlement previously signed under duress and fraudulent terms is voided. The divorce between Lucas Carter and Samantha Carter is granted. 2. Regarding the division of joint assets, given Lucas Carter's major fault and malicious asset hiding, he shall receive a reduced share. The current liquid assets, real estate, and vehicles shall be divided according to law, with the majority awarded to Samantha Carter. Carter Innovations, valued at approximately $1 billion, shall have 70% of its equity awarded to Samantha Carter. The 30% remaining to Lucas Carter shall be frozen and primarily used to compensate the company for losses and debts incurred by his illegal actions. 3. The assets transferred by Lucas Carter to Chloe Evans and her family, including but not limited to the Mercer Island mansion, the downtown condo, vehicles, and cash, constitute unauthorized disposal of marital property and must be returned. 4. All legal fees shall be borne by the respondent, Lucas Carter. The judge's voice was clear and powerful. Every ruling was a heavy hammer blow to Lucas's heart, and the final nail in the coffin of this long war. When I heard that 70% of Carter Innovations belonged to me, the string that had been pulled tight inside me for so long finally slackened. My vision blurred slightly, not from weakness, but from a heavy, long overdue relief. $1 billion in assets had legally returned to its rightful owner. Upon hearing the verdict, Lucas looked as if his soul had been sucked out. He slumped in his chair, his face like ash, completely devoid of life. His corporate empire, his meticulously planned escape, his romance bought with betrayal, all of it had burst like a bubble, and he was now facing federal prison time. I didn't look at him. I stood up calmly and walked out of the courtroom, flanked by Grace and Ethan. The sun outside was blinding but warm. Reporters swarmed us like a tidal wave, shouting questions. I stopped, faced the cameras, and looked calm and open. First, I want to thank the justice system. Carter Innovations was co-founded by Lucas Carter and me. Just like our marriage, it started with beautiful intentions and shared struggle. As for the company, I will take responsibility. I will do everything in my power to save it, restructure it, and do right by our employees, shareholders, and society. As for the past, the dust has settled. What I want to do now is look forward and restart my career and my life. Thank you all. With that, I nodded slightly and left with the help of security. The clamor faded behind me. As the car pulled away from the courthouse, Grace couldn't help but sigh. Sam, you did it. A beautiful victory. Ethan was buzzing. Hell yes, Sam. The company is back in your hands. Let's see how those two scumbags act. I looked out the window at the rapidly passing city. There was no wild ecstasy in my heart, only a crystal-clear calm and a reignited sense of control over my future. It's not over yet, I said softly. Getting the company back is just step one. Carter Innovations is dealing with internal and external crises. There's a long road ahead. Yes, the war was over, but the rebuilding had just begun. I wouldn't drown in the pain of the past or the joy of victory. The era of Samantha Carter had truly begun. I would use my intellect, capability, and methods to breathe new life into Carter Innovations, making it my strongest fortress and my widest stage. And all that betrayal, pain, and scheming would ultimately turn into the hardest armor on my journey forward. From today on, I am no longer someone's wife or someone's accessory. I am just Samantha Carter, a woman who controls her own destiny. The road ahead may still have thorns, but I am fearless.